Hi everyone, my name is Tanvi and I'm a senior analyst here at Everest Group. And I'm joined today by Mukesh. Mukesh is a vice president with the firm and he leads all the efforts for the cloud and infra practice. And together we'll be talking about a topic that is almost the talk of the town and one of the most critical parts of the digital infrastructure, which we call the data centers. So without further ado, I think it's time to get started. So Mukesh, we know that AI has become the talk of the town where almost every industry, every roadmap, and every innovation roadmap is being reshaped by it. But behind the scenes of this AI explosion lies an even bigger story, which is the data center story, right? When we see that the data centers themselves are undergoing a radical transformation. And they're not just growing, they are transforming, where we see that the traditional designs are being torn up. And to keep up with that, there is a global surge in demand for high performance AI ready data centers, which are going to be bigger, denser, and faster. So, as countries around the world are racing to build infrastructure that can keep up with it, what the first question to address would be what is it that makes an AI ready data center different from the traditional data centers that we have seen till now? So, could you please help us understand that, Mukesh?
Sure. Thanks, Tanvi, for that background and introduction. I think it's a very fundamental shift that's happening in the industry right now. If you think about data centers and the way it has evolved, definitely it has undergone a lot of transformation over a period of time, right? You moved from traditional to software defined, and now with AI coming in, essentially it's not a small shift, but essentially you need to kind of just rip and replace and think of it as an entirely new data center or in terms of entirely new design. The reason being that AI workloads typically demand things which the traditional data centers are not able to fulfill. And the main reason behind that change is the shift from CPU to GPU workloads, right? So CPU workloads were something that were general purpose workloads, right? Essentially, it had a lot of flexibility, but also it could not process too many workloads at one point in time. Versus GPUs in very simple terminologies, again, it's something that can process multiple workloads at the same time and especially designed to learn parallel workloads like AI workloads. I think some of the other fundamental changes that are needed in terms of the design of a data center are rack density. Typically, AI workloads require a much more higher rack density, which the traditional ones are not able to provide. Cooling requirements, the conventional data centers use air cooling, and some of that does not suffice. So we are moving towards liquid cooled data centers. Some of the larger players, right? I think Microsoft, Lenovo, a lot of these players are already adopting it at a very rapid pace. Networking architecture, I think the entire architecture, right? It needs to change. To become more real time and more all of that needs to be more real time data training that needs to happen. And finally, from power infrastructure, again, it requires massive energy inputs, and sometimes it also needs dedicated substation level support, right? So all of this requires a very fundamental redesign, and we are starting to see this not just in specific locations but globally. And that brings me to the next question, and this one is for you, Tanvi. In terms of the India market, how are you seeing the India data center scenario evolve?
Absolutely, Mukesh. I think India has been one of the countries that has definitely come from the back end to the backbone. And we can say that this is truly India's AI data center movement because it is rapidly expanding, fueled by a mix of public investment, private partnerships, and growing enterprise demand as well. And as AI becomes increasingly central to the digital transformation across industry, there's going to be even more demand for it. Because over the past 18 months itself, close to $12 billion have already been invested in AI data center landscape, to name a few. If we talk about AWS will be investing close to 60,000 crores in data centers in Telangana. And this is the upcoming investments. They have already invested before. They earlier announced $4.4 billion by 2030 to develop its cloud and infrastructure in the state. So that's one of the investment that AWS is making. Similarly, if you talk about Controllers is building 5 million square feet of tier 4 rated space in Hyderabad. Similarly, Utah has launched India's first AI HPC data center in Navi Mumbai. And other players, other big players like Adani Connects, Capital Land, STT GDC, Reliance Jio, they are aggressively scaling across metros and edge hubs. So it's expanding at a rapid scale, and it's going to be massive going forward.
So Tanvi, that's a really incredible spread, right? In terms of not just the number of players, but also the kind of players, right? So new players like Adani Connects, I think Reliance is also one. These are also entering into the data center market. So what's really enabling this in the India data center market scenario?
Absolutely, Mukesh. I think it's very important to understand the kind of structural shifts which is leading to such kind of investments in enterprise demand. So we can divide it into three structural shifts, which is enabling this. First one being the digital demand. India has a rapid population, and India's cloud native growth is surging. There are more users, more data, and there is more real-time applications for which we need data centers. So that is attracting a lot of investments from all of these players. Secondly, the policy tailwinds. So there are initiatives like Data Center Policy 2020, which offer critical enablers in terms of land access, fiscal incentives, and fast-track approvals. So that is also in turn leading to the kind of support that these players need when it comes to investing in various cities across India. And thirdly, and most importantly, the sovereign infrastructure push. So a lot of players like especially hyperscalers, they want localized compute, and India offers scale, resilience, and regulatory comfort when it comes to sovereign infrastructure. So these are the three main reasons which is leading to such humongous demand from enterprises, and in turn helping the providers which provide data centers as well. But what's especially interesting in the move here is that the investments are not just happening in tier 1 cities, but it's also happening across tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 landscape. Especially locations like Hyderabad, Pune, Navi Mumbai, Chennai, they are positioning themselves as distinctional AI hubs. But the real question here is, Mukesh, that all these cities are not equally developed. They kind of vary across aspects. So the next big question would be that how do we separate the front runners from the rest of the cloud when it comes to investment across Indian cities? Do we have a framework for that?
Sure. So I think that's a very good observation and very important also in terms of how this market is evolving right now. And what it requires is a systemic approach to identify which cities are better suitable. So at Everest Group, what we have done is we recently also published something in which we have developed a Caliber DC framework, and it's a 7-dimensional model to evaluate a city's AI data center readiness. Now, what these 7 dimensions are connectivity, abundant and sustainable power, local policies and incentives, innovation and talent flux, business ecosystem, environment resilience, and ramp up capacity. So this is the broad
Absolutely.
framework based on which we are doing this evaluation.
Right. And that really helps us cut through the noise. Because if we talk about
Yeah.
some examples like Mumbai might score high on fiber density and policy clarity, but it could face challenges around real estate saturation. Similarly, if you talk about Chennai, it benefits from strong subsea cable landings and port proximity. But then there are concerns related to climate resilience. So I think our framework is a holistic way to approach how the different cities vary in their caliber when it comes to establishing a TC. And it's clear that decisions cannot be made just on the land cost alone. It's about matching AI workload profile to city level capability maturity. So thanks a lot for that, Mukesh. To wrap it up, we know that AI is not just reshaping compute, it's reshaping geographies as well. And India now finds itself as the intersection of global demand, investor momentum, and national ambition. So I think this is the right time.
Yeah, and I think the success won't come from brute force now. It really needs precision planning, the right architecture and right power strategies, and also finally identifying the right cities.
Absolutely. And we can say that not every city can compute in the future, but those who can are definitely going to define it. So thanks
Yeah.
a lot, Mukesh, for that. It was great talking to you about data centers. We also have recently published a report. We'll probably attach the link of the report in the comment section. So thanks a lot for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.